Dad's dream to talk about his favorite team with the son digging the stats. Come and join us, nerding on the Dbacks.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I was listening to tunes on my iPod. Want to listen?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
I didn't even think you knew what an iPod was.
It says it on the back.
Oh, all right. Hey, well, I do know you can read, so that's good.
8 gigabytes.
Yeah. So, hi. Welcome to Nerdy on the Dbacks.
The one and only.
That's right. The one and only
Father, son.
show in America.
Yep, because there's one in...
Oh, just go with Finland.
Yeah, I'll go... I'll go Iceland on this one.
You're the worst. Never listen to a thing that I say.
No.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, no, you embody my son perfectly. It's amazing. You're awesome.
I'm just
I
looking
love
at the map up there.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Hey. So I'm Dad, aka Chris, and this is.
Son, a.k.a. Phoenix.
Yeah. That only took us a minute to get to sharing our names. So this is off to a rocky start. That's all right.
We have a blooper because it was. We had a pretty bad blooper. His phone went off.
That's right. The first go at this went even worse.
Yeah.
So consider yourself lucky. And if you're still listening, we got a hell of a show for you coming. But first, please like, comment, subscribe, and channel your inner kindergartner and
Share.
That's right. So we're a few days late on our pod. We typically record a recap and analyzation show every Wednesday or Thursday when the team has a getaway day or has an off day. But this week, you had a crazy week of football over the past week. You had a game on Wednesday night. You had a game on Thursday night. Friday, you had your very, very first solo music performance.
Yep, on my ukulele.
That's right, your ukulele, and you did some live singer-songwriter performance on that ukulele. Performing, what was the song you performed?
Trouble by Never Shout Never.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so cool. And so maybe we'll put that up on the Twitter, on our Twitter feed, so you guys can see what we're talking about.
Next time I'll sing our intro song.
Yeah, I'd love that too. So it was very cool. And then on Saturday you had more football and then a sleepover. And anyway, at the point that we got to Saturday afternoon to finally have a window to record, I was just like, let's do it at Sunday because then we can just get the last game, like 2 games of the weekend in and recap the entire weekend in series. So thanks for being patient with us. It's hard to find time to record sometimes because your schedule is outrageous being in school. I mean, I'm busy, but I'm mostly busy doing things for you and your brother. And so this is one of them, but you have other obligations you have to get to. But football's going to be over soon for the rest of the summer, and so we should be able to.
Sadly,
we should have more time to get these pods in regularly. Shouldn't be quite as difficult. And over the weekend, we introduced your brother to a baseball classic.
Can you guess it? No, it's not 42. It's The Sandlot.
That's right.
Although 42 is a pretty good movie.
L7 Weenie.
L7 Weenie.
So, yeah. And your brother's 4 years old. He absolutely loved it.
Yeah, he didn't want to watch it at first. And then,
Yeah.
And then I just put it on. And then he started cracking up.
He's kind of like you in that he never wants to watch the movies that Dad suggests, but then as soon as he starts watching them, he thinks they're amazing.
No, that was never me.
For those who are just listening to this right now, Phoenix's face was seriously so deadpan there. Like, yeah, no, of course that was never me. That was awesome. And he immediately, as soon as the line came out of Ham's mouth, "You're killing me, Smalls," he immediately repeated that line right away. It was so funny.
But the funny thing is he can't really say his K's, so he says, "You're tilling me," with
"You're
a T.
tilling me, Smalls."
And it's so cute.
And he also has started to say, which is a line I've never even pulled out of that, because he said a handful of times over the weekend, "You're killing me, Smalls." But he also said, he's also started saying, "Thanks," like Smalls says in the movie a few times, because Smalls is the politest little kid, right? I mean, to a fault. He's just constantly like, I'm sorry, thank you, I'm sorry, thank you, I'm sorry. And so he's always just thanking people and saying he's sorry for things. And
when I watched the movie, I couldn't stop singing "This magic moment" when Squints.
Yeah.
I also love the part where the Darth Vader guy is like, "You could have knocked on the door for me," and then everybody's just like hitting Squints, like, "Come on, man."
Yeah, great film though, aged wonderfully. So, kind of like the D-backs season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit better here. They've been treading water. This past week, their record was 5-4. I shouldn't say 5-4. This past 10 days since we recorded last, they've gone 5-4. Versus the Padres, every game was essentially a blowout. They were all 6 runs or more in either direction. And then they swept the Reds, we ended up playing at the right time. I don't know if you know this, like the Reds came into that series on like a 5 or 6 game losing streak, something along those lines. And the D-backs just extended it, beating them 3 more times. And so they've been...
Can we count that as a shutout?
No.
Dang it.
But that's a good... I like where your head's at. They did have 2 games decided by 1 run, but they still ended up winning all 3. And then they dropped 2 close ones in Baltimore before trouncing the worn-out Orioles bullpen. Specifically, they broke it open against a left-handed pitcher. And I want to put a pin in that for later because I found some interesting information about these D-backs. It kind of explains why they are so feast or famine on their offense in games. It becomes kind of evident. So first, though, let's talk in our segment here called...
Best segment in nerding history.
Nerding history. I love it. We have a lot of segments, so that's saying something. Yep. So what's this called?
So oh my god, it's lagging. For this segment is called Who's Hot and Who's Not.
That's right. And what are we trying to do here, Phoenix, with who's hot and who's not?
We're trying to say who's not doing very good, and absolutely doing great. So the who's hot is the people who are doing amazing, and the who's not is the people who aren't. So yeah.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So
let's get to it.
Yeah. So starting off.
All right.
Yeah.
I have to ask first. Good news or the bad news first?
As always, I want the good news.
The good news. Okay. So, that's trying to...
First, we're going to do who's hot.
I said it's getting hot in here. So hot.
All right. So, Phoenix, who over the past 9 games has been hot?
All right, so it's who's hot. So let's start with the starting pitcher. Our starting pitcher, who was cold last week, is Zach Gallen. Their best starting pitcher.
Yeah, their ace.
Yep, their ace.
I think you'd call him an ace.
He's pitched 12 innings. And
he had 2 starts.
Yeah, 2 starts.
Yep.
And he has two runs and 2 earned runs. He struck out 10 guys. over the past week, and he's walked five people, and somebody's hit a home run off of him.
Yeah. Yeah, five walks, kind of uncharacteristic, but he got out of there, out of all of his innings without too much damage after putting those guys on base. So
Yep.
that's kind of what you do when you're an ace. So that was rad. And
Yep.
snaps for Zach Gallen helping us out.
Getting off that cold list and moving up.
That's right. Yeah, that's why we do this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, launch them into the stratosphere. So
He probably did not listen to our pod. Just.
That's all right. All we're doing is just putting the positive vibes out into the universe.
Vibes.
Yeah,
Positive vibes.
that's right. So who do we have coming out of the bullpen? Who's been our top bullpen performer over that
All right.
period?
So it's Justin Martinez with
Woo!
5.2 innings pitched.
Yeah.
And then he has zero runs. He has 9 strikeouts.
Woo!
He's walked 3 guys and has 0 home runs.
Yeah.
Because he has
That's
0
a
runs,
dominating
so.
performance. I actually think I'm going to mention this again. Yeah, snaps for Martinez. He just came up recently. I really think he might already be the best relief pitcher in our bullpen. I'm going to say that. That's impressive.
Say it on the prediction side too. And so for
It's more of an evaluative statement, not really a predictive statement.
For the offensive side, our hitters, McCarthy with a
Jakey boy.
a 1 dotter.
Jake the Snake. Yeah, 1 dot in it this past week. So tell us everything about what he did.
That's funny. I said he's Jake the Snake because logo snake.
He embodies what it means to be a Diamondback.
All right, so he has 19 plate appearances. He's hit 1 home run. He has 5 runs, 1 2-bagger, 4 RBIs, and 4 walks. So
Yeah.
props to him.
Snaps McCarthy.
Ooh.
Working his way into some more playing time. I think he's kind of earned it. Yeah. And then who else do we have?
The barn who has a heart, Barnhart.
Yeah, Tucker.
That's
Got a lot of playing time with Moreno being sick for a lot of the past 10 days. So that part's been great, and he's been making the most of it. Tell us what he's done.
he's got a 100 daughter.
He's got a 905.
He's got a 905 OPS. He's got 16 plate appearances, 6 runs, and 1 RBI. He's walked 6 times, which is pretty impressive.
All right, Tucker. Both those guys. They didn't get the most playing time, but these guys were the top performers for the week. And I'm going to go into it, but honestly, I think both these guys probably deserve more playing time. Their underlying metrics for the season are really good and worth getting them into the lineup more often. So let's talk about the flip side of all this awesomeness with the guys who are
Not so hot.
what would we call that?
Cold, or who's not.
Ice baby.
We're going on to the ice babies.
Yeah, ice babies. So who do we got for a starting pitcher this past week that kind of dropped the ball?
Wow. That's a balk in my book. Yeah, it's Saccone. He has 2 game starts.
Yeah, 2 games started.
Yeah, and 9.2 innings pitched, 7 runs on him,
All earned.
3 home runs on him. Oof. Walked 5 guys, and has 6 Ks.
Yeah, that's how you end up on the cold list for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not loving that line. He's got to pick that up if he's going to stay in this rotation.
3 home runs is rough.
more than another month here. Yes. So, Slade, this is your notice. Start rocking it, buddy. We need you.
I don't know where you are on the screen.
So, yeah, come on back, buddy. Come on back to us. You were dominating early. We want that Slade back.
Might be like over there, somewhere right there.
All right. So,
For the relievers.
Who's the disappointment out of the pen? Who needs to pick it up more out of the pen?
We got the cat in the dog pen. It's Bryce Jarvis.
Yeah.
Yes, 3.2 innings pitched. Got 4 runs on him. 3 are earned. 1 is not earned. 2 Ks, strikeouts. Walked 5, 2 home runs.
Yeah. It's not a great line. 2 strikeouts to 5 walks and giving up 2 home runs. That's just not going to get it done. So, Bryce, let's see you pick this up here, buddy. You started out strong. I know you got it. Bryce is an interesting cat. I actually want to talk about him a little later in the show when we go over the state of the bullpen. So, who were the 2 hitters who really need to pick it up most?
All right, so we got the offense, Ice Babies. We got Blaze with a 180 OPS.
Oh, 180. Are you sure that's right? 180 OPS?
Go check Fangraphs.
Yeah, that's awful. I believe you. That is a rough week and change of games. It's a rough 9-game stretch. So
I mean, you saw it with me. We both went on Fangraphs.
I know. I have to check your work. Make sure that you got it right.
You did check my work. So where are you at? Okay.
All right. So
I'm done with you.
So tell us more about Blaze's week.
Oh my God. I should kick you out of the show. Oh wait, then I'd have to do all the work. All right, so 17 plate appearances, 0 RBIs, 0 home runs, and then 0 2-baggers. And the worst part, he got strikeout 7 times.
Yikes. All right, Blaze, you can pick this up. I know it. I got faith in you. You definitely are in a cold stretch, a slump, you might call it. This is your slump buster.
Yeah.
Right now. Do it.
Yeah. All right, so the next one. It always hurts to put him on this list.
2 weeks in a row.
It's the hair, Lourdes Gurriel.
Yeah. All right, Lourdes. What did Lourdes do or not do?
He's got a 508 OPS, 34 plate appearances, and 3 runs and 2 RBIs.
Yeah, I wonder how many strikeouts and walks he had in there. But we definitely need him to pick that up. This offense, is really, really dependent on Lourdes being certainly one of their top 5 or 6 hitters, and he hasn't been that now for a couple of weeks. It's been rough. We need him to pick it up. So, Lourdes,
I need you to get 28 home runs, man.
You have, over the last few games, you have been playing better. Need you to continue for us, all right? We need this.
Let's go, Lourdes.
We're dependent on you. All right. So, for all our guys on Who's Not and all the guys who we just slump busted and we're going to see take off, congrats.
Yeah. Congrats to the Who's Not and then... Or to the Who's Hot. Man,
yeah,
should be kicked off.
So I wanted to do a little something here. We're a quarter of the way through the season. We're 40 games in. The Dbacks are a few games under 500. And let's talk about some of their performances and some trends that probably, I know I said in the past, probably need 80 games to evaluate, but some things, particularly with pitching, you can see trends kind of establishing themselves a little quicker because of pitches themselves, and you can also start to take some concepts or some evaluative measures and some steps in regards to hitters as well. So there's some of these things were kind of predictable, and I want to talk about them a little bit. And the first thing that I want to discuss is there's been a lot of hand wringing.
What do you mean by hand wringing?
A lot of people have been just frustrated and complaining about how the D-backs have had an all or nothing offense. Like they either are putting up like 12 runs or more, or they're blowing teams out, or they're only scoring like 2 runs or less. And there's not a lot of in between where they're scoring 3 to like 7 runs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually went back and looked through those blowouts. This started by me looking at what some splits were like for the team. And what if I told you that most of those blowouts had one thing in common about the opposition that game? Whether it was the Rockies, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Yankees, they all had one thing in common when they blew those teams out. Do you know what it was, Phoenix?
I got this. I don't got this. I don't know.
No, you don't got this. They faced a left-handed starting pitcher. Their game against the Rockies, 16-1, was against Kyle Freeland, lefty. Their game against the Giants, 17-1, Blake Snell, lefty. Their game against the Cardinals, 14-1, Steven Matz, lefty. Even their game against the Yankees, 7-0, was Nestor Cortez, lefty. There have been some righties in there that they've put up a lot of blowout runs against. And I kind of look at, I know there's like the 12-11 game that they had against the Cubs, right? But a 12-11 game is not quite the same thing. Yes, they put up a lot of runs, but they didn't put up a lot of that. They're not really blowouts in those instances, so they're not facing the worst of the bullpen guys, right? So even like I just mentioned, when the Orioles, the D-backs were up on the Orioles, I believe 3-0, when the Orioles went to their bullpen in the game that they won 9-2, the Orioles went to their bullpen and they brought in a left-hander, and the D-backs proceeded to score 6 runs, 3 earned off of that left-handed reliever. They are just smashing lefties. Here's the thing:
all the teams that they face just have to put righties in there, and then
yep, this is much. Yeah. So this is kind of crazy, and I actually talked about this constantly in the offseason when it came to that the D-backs have on the season versus left-handed pitching. They have the very, very best work plus WRC plus versus left-handed pitching in all of Major League Baseball. They hit left-handed pitching. They have hit left-handed pitching this season so far better than any other team in Major League Baseball. And they're actually up by quite a few points, like 5, 6, 7 points in WRC plus versus lefties. They just absolutely destroy left-handed pitching. And it's not hard to see why. We talked about this in the offseason. All the players that they have on their roster who have historically smashed left-handed pitching in their careers. Ketel Marte, awesome against lefties, but a league average hitter versus righties. Christian Walker, smashes lefties, still very good against righties. Gabriel Moreno, granted he's only got 1 season of data, but he smashed lefties last year when we were looking at this in the offseason, and he was far below average versus righties. He actually struggled a lot at hitting right-handed pitching. Randall Grichuk smashes lefties, right? And I know they didn't have him all off season, but they picked him up before the season started, and just another lefty masher. I mean, literally the guy was the top lefty masher on the entire team over the last 2 seasons.
Lefty masher.
The Gino Suarez, lefty masher, below average hitter versus right-handed pitching. Smashes lefties. All these guys are living up to expectations this season. Basically, when you take a look at even if their splits, even if their overall OPS is poor this season and is below average, their splits. So, like take Eugenio Suarez for example. He's got poor numbers versus righties, worse than normal. And his numbers versus lefties are worse than normal, but his numbers versus lefties are still above average, where his numbers versus righties are just horrific, which is kind of his entire career. And so add in pleasant surprises like Blaze Alexander, Kevin Newman, and even Lourdes Gurriel. And I say Lourdes Gurriel because Lourdes came into the season basically being a 0 splits guy. Like he just hasn't And of all these guys, I expect Lourdes to even out the most just because his entire career has been so even. He's been like a 105 OPS guy against both righties and lefties, which is why he's so valuable. He's splits resistant. But this season, he's absolutely smashed left-handed pitching, and he has not hit right-handed pitching nearly as well. And it was easy to see in the offseason that they were probably going to be a top 10 offense versus left-handed pitching. This is why when everybody was talking about the DH thing and like everybody in Dbacks land was like JD Martinez, Jorge Soler, Justin Turner. These are the guys we need. We need more righties. And I'm like, no, we don't need righties. Stop it. Stop the ship. We need a lefty to get in there and mash right-handed pitching because we already are going to mash left-handed pitching as it is, and we don't even face lefties that often, which is part of the problem right now. If the D-backs could just face lefties in every game, they'd have the best offense in baseball, maybe. But they don't. They only get to face lefties maybe at best 1 out of 3 games, but more likely 1 out of about 25% of their innings, and so 25% of their plate appearances. And so, we both were, and you just kind of as with me educating you along the way, no, we don't want Turner. We don't want Martinez. I know Martinez is great and he had an amazing couple of months, but he's not the best fit for this team. And neither is
Turner was a different story.
Turner's actually, I've been very impressed with the way Justin Turner has hit the ball this season. I'm still happy we had Jock, the guy that you picked first in our off-season DH draft, because he seemed like the best fit, but we were like, yes, don't pass on Martinez, pass on Turner, pass on Soler, give us Peterson, give us Michael Brantley, give us Brandon Belt. Ironically, only one of those 3 guys signed. Brantley retired. Belt's not even in the league. And Jock Peterson is absolutely crushing the ball, taking amazing at bats.
He used to be a great walker.
He is a great walker.
Yeah,
he still is, man. It is nuts. His at bats are some of the most fun to watch. He spits on everything. I mean, Blaze is too. He just doesn't have the swing that Jock does. So that part's fantastic. They have exactly what we thought in smashing left-handed pitching, and it's going to plan. And so that is the feast aspect of this team. It's not that they are so randomly just going off for a bunch of runs in a game. Some of that has happened. They put up, I can't remember the guy's name, but when they faced the knuckleball pitcher in San Diego, they put a lot of runs up on him, but he's such an outlier of a pitcher already. He's literally the only guy in Major League Baseball that throws a knuckleball. And so I kind of don't count him with all the other right-handed pitchers because I don't know this, but I would think that knuckleball pitchers are probably pretty splits resistant just in general. And so the issue then where they go famine is versus right-handed pitchers, because their hitting versus right-handed pitching is in the bottom 5. When I looked them up last, they were 28th in Major League Baseball in WRC plus versus right-handed pitching. And that's a big old, what do you call that, Phoenix?
I think
What's
it's
the expression?
Ouch.
Yeah, that's the expression we're looking for. So I already went over this. The offseason DH rant. Absolutely. I'm so happy we got Jock. Could you imagine this problem would be exasperated even more if they had signed one of those 3 right-handed DHs. So thank goodness for Jock. Walker's still been great versus right-handed pitching. This is the craziest part. Guess who's 3rd on the team in OPS versus right-handed pitching all season long?
I think it's one of our hot guys, Tucker Barnhart.
Yeah, it's Tucker Barnhart. That's right. Yeah. Chalk that up under things I didn't expect in 2024. I was actually not much of a fan of the Tucker Barnhart signing. I was like, go get Gary Sanchez. Just spend the few $1 million and sign Gary Sanchez to have a great backup and share DH at bats with Jock versus as a platoon. And so they didn't do that. And Tucker has been absolutely incredible. He has an on-base percentage right around where Jock is at this stage. And he's another left-handed pitcher. And I don't know if you remember me saying this, but walks are something that it's a process. It's typically what's considered a process stat. And that means being it's a process, it's more sticky as a result. It's a sticky stat.
What do you mean by sticky stat?
It's more likely to stabilize, meaning he's taking really good at bats. He's seeing the ball well. He doesn't even, and this is likely to continue. Usually strikeout rate and walk rate stabilize pretty fast for a player in a season because that's just your decision to either swing or not swing at pitches for the most part. And so that usually doesn't change. It doesn't mean that you have a mechanical flaw in your swing. All that matters is just what your approach is at the plate. And your approach is something that is proactive by you, if that makes sense. Like Perdomo is kind of like that too, in that he takes really good plate appearances. He doesn't have a very good swing, but he has a fantastic plate approach at the plate. And that part's not going to change. And so most likely Barnhart's approach at the plate is not going to change. He's absolutely rocking it. I don't expect him to stick around over a 400 on base percentage for the whole season. That would be ridiculous if he does stay up there. Even though Moreno is a Gold Glover, Barnhart might be comparable in total value. That's an incredible season if he can do that. He's not really swinging the bat very well. He's only got like a 250 batting average, but he's getting on base. His process is fantastic. So keep that up, Tucker Barnhart. Moreno, Marte, and I put Moreno a second time. I don't know who I meant to put there.
I think you meant to put Moreno.
They're both near league average hitters. McCarthy's the other one.
No.
Moreno, Marte, and McCarthy, the M&M boys.
M and M.
M and M. And so those guys are all league average, kind of doing what they do, which that's great to see, particularly Moreno and Marte being around league average. That's terrific. And McCarthy, I'd like to see higher than league average versus right-handed pitching, but at least he's keeping his head above water. The disappointments have been Blaze, Gino, and Lourdes, unfortunately.
I thought you were going to put Blaze, Gino, and Blaze.
Blaze, Gino, Blaze. Yeah, those guys are all under a 600 OPS for the season. That's bad. That's like 30 to 50% below league average offense. Newman and Corbin Carroll are both under 500, which is honestly borderline not playable. That means you are worse than 50%. You are worse than 50% of the league average as a hitter. And that's really, we're starting to get to a lot of plate appearances for Carroll where things are just not turning around. And he looked hot. He looked like he was kind of pulling out of the slump about a week ago, and it lasted like 3 games, and then he just went right back to struggle busing. And
I think it's because he was like a rookie last year, so nobody really knew much about him.
Yeah.
So now everybody like knows what he kind of like hits and stuff because
it's
Fangraphs, I guess.
Yeah. They have their own. I mean, the stuff at Fangraphs is really cool, and Baseball Savant, right? All those numbers, but the stuff that the kind of modeling and the numbers that these teams are putting together be in their own front offices make Fangraphs and Statcast numbers look like child's play. I mean, they're so comprehensive and detailed and in depth, and they take into account so much more information. The teams have access to so much more data, than what is available to the public. So they can just create crazy models and algorithms out of that data that we'll just probably never even know about. But it's cool to see some of it at least on display through those sites. And so here's the concern with hitting right-handed pitching so poorly. I don't really know what you do about that right now. Yeah. You can't really change the guys that are on the team. The guys on the team, I mean, you kind of have to hope Lourdes and Carroll kind of turn it around. I don't think you really can expect Gino to turn it around. This is only a slightly worse version of himself versus versus right-handed hitters than what he's kind of been for the last couple of seasons. This kind of saw this coming if you plotted it out. It might be a little worse than what you expect, but not a lot. Whereas Gurriel and especially Corbin Carroll, just shockingly bad. And we need to, those guys just like, I hate relying on the strategy of just keep playing it. I hope it turns around. But honestly, neither of those guys' underlying metrics, Gurriel more than Carroll, but neither of those guys' underlying metrics, their batted ball profiles, their plate approaches, their swings, nothing looks particularly promising that they're going to pull out of what's going on. Now, the one difference with Gurriel is notoriously a streaky hitter. So
Notoriously, I like that.
That everyone who's ever had Gurriel on their team knows it.
Blue Jays, Dbacks.
Yeah, for the most part, anyone who's been fans of those teams while Gurriel was there, they've seen Lourdes. He is just a nightmare of a rolling StatCast graph. If you go onto StatCast and you look at expected OPS, they have a 50 and 100 and I think 150 day rolling expected OPS, and he is just like that. Most players are kind of like a little up, little down, but pretty smooth. He's just all over. It's nuts. And so okay, so I expect Lourdes to essentially pull it out. We just kind of put these numbers together. You know, the 40 game mark just happened to come at the end of a kind of a prolonged slump that he looks like he's starting to pull out of already. Yeah. And
this is gonna be my best analogy. I want the coaches to hit the hammer on that one game that like the thing goes up and it goes ding.
Yeah.
So the coaches, he's kind of at the bottom here, and then the coaches go ding and find that thing, and he goes. He hits the bell and it goes sting, and then Lourdes now has the highest OPS on the team and hits 28 home runs.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Way to tie that together.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Very good. Yeah. So I expect that to happen, but Carroll's really concerning, and we need him to pull it back around. The one thing, having Lawler and Thomas in the lineup would probably help, but having Thomas in the lineup's really only going to help if you're going to sit Carroll occasionally, which I have a hard time believing that's going to happen. That you would sit Carroll and Gurriel a little more often. Sit them just once a week, maybe even twice a week. Sit Carroll. I don't know. I don't know what you do at this point. He's going. The concern is, if you were to put Thomas in the lineup, and then if you had Lawler healthy, maybe Lawler could play some shortstop and take some at bats away from Alexander and Newman, who are both pretty bad.
I think Torrey was kind of scared of the left hands because everybody was like saying, "Oh, the left hands are gonna like eat you guys," and then from last year.
Yeah, it's just PTSD.
Torrey got like scared, and then
it
was
was Hazen who put the team together.
Hazen was like, "Guys, we need to work on our left hand, so work on that for the off season." They kind of just forgot about the right-handers, and then got.
If you look at his off-season acquisitions, there aren't a lot of left-handed hitting third basemen out there. So I understand him just adding a righty. Like Suarez is perfectly fine. Suarez is not the problem. He's not much of a help, but he's not a problem per se. He's just kind of a slightly worse version of who we were expecting to get out of that deal. And then you add Lourdes, but Lourdes, like I said, is an even splits guy. He is one of the most splits neutral hitters in all of Major League Baseball. Good hitters. And then you add in Jock Peterson as a left-handed hitter, and they added Tucker Barnhart, another left-handed hitter. So two of their kind of main three off-season acquisitions, basically all three of those guys either were splits neutral or hit right-handed pitching better.
Yeah.
So Hazen seemed to have identified this and that he needed to add more lefties to the lineup, which was good. The problem is it just hasn't worked out. And then he added Grichuk as well, but Grichuk was a situational play, and we already know he can't hit right-handed pitching, and that's perfectly fine. That's not what he's there to do. He's there to play decent defense when a lefty is on the mound. And so some things that I would do, though. At first, I'd definitely move Carroll back down to the bottom third of the lineup. You can't have your worst hitter batting leadoff. It's just such you're killing your team's offensive potential by having your worst hitter bat leadoff.
For left-handed pitchers, go right ahead because he's.
I wouldn't even do that. He's a left-handed hitter. I would just have him bat in the bottom third of the lineup always. Have him bat ninth. Literally have him bat ninth. Be that second leadoff man for the top of the lineup. That is what I would do. And then, like we said, he had a 3 to 4 game stretch where the performance looked slightly improved like a week ago, but now his numbers in May look just as bad as they did in April. Literally, like he's sitting at crazy low WRC plus for both months. And I just don't know. He talked about the mechanical change, right? That he was swinging too flat. Here's the thing about swinging too flat. Changing the attack angle of your swing is kind of a big deal in your swing. Players generally don't make those kinds of changes in season because it's just too hard. And that's an off season. If you ever listen to interviews with players talking about making swing changes, they always say they wait till the off season to do it because making changes, yes, you can make little tweaks in season to your swing, but doing because changing the angle of your swing is kind of an overhaul of your swing mechanics. And so trying to do that mid-season on the fly is really, really difficult. And so I would actually give him, I'm not saying that Carroll can't do it. I would give him I'd probably give him a game off every series at this point and let him work it out in the cages for the most part. Just because he was a stud last year does not mean that you need to keep putting him in a position that he is constantly sinking the offense's potential by being in the top third of the lineup. At least stick him in the bottom. I mean, I would just put him at ninth until he legitimately starts to get that new swing mechanic figured out. But it's probably going to take, honestly, it's probably going to take a month or two for him to work that out. And it's so hard to do it facing major league pitchers because those guys are nuts. Like we said, Gurriel's always been a super streaky hitter. Yep. He's starting to pull out of it, but I'd maybe still consider sitting him. And when he's not on fire, I would consider sitting him once a week versus a right-handed pitcher. Yeah. Give McCarthy more starts because, as I said, McCarthy's hitting righties really well. And then you could also put Jock Peterson in the outfield still. So he came up as a center fielder. He was playing center field just like 5 years ago.
Would you put McCarthy at the top of versus
right-handed pitchers?
At the the top of the lineup.
If versus right-handed pitchers, yeah, why not? I mean, they don't have anyone hitting right-handed pitching real well. I would be putting at this stage, take advantage of Barnhart's approach. I'd be not in any particular order, but my top hitters versus right-handed pitchers would probably be Barnhart. Get him in the lineup, either as the catcher or as the DH. Jock definitely. Walker, doing great. So those three, and then Marte and
Marte fourth?
not necessarily. I said in no particular order.
Oh.
Just these would be the guys at the top of my lineup against right-handers. Marte, and then as of right now, McCarthy. I think McCarthy probably would be the other guy I'd have in the top 5.
So I'll try and make I think for like the batting lineup, I'd probably put McCarthy at first, and then probably McCarthy. Wait, did I just say McCarthy? I'd
probably put McCarthy last personally, and I only say that because of that list. I'd probably put him 5th because usually if he's on base, then you can take advantage of his speed a little bit more and steal bags with him with a little more aggressiveness.
Okay.
Because you don't have Walker and Peterson coming up behind him where you don't want to make an out on the bases potentially. But if you wanted to put him at leadoff, it's not a bad decision either. I think you're on the right page there. Yeah. And so I'd probably move Moreno up. He looks like he's picked up where he left off at the end of last year, and I would certainly consider having both Moreno and Barnhart in the lineup versus right-handed pitchers more often. And again, that does require Jock Peterson moves to the outfield to free up DH, but I'm confident that he can pull that off just fine. But something needs to be done to shake this lineup up versus right-handed pitching. You can't just sit and wait for Gurriel to catch fire. You can't wait for Carroll to figure out his new swing mid-season.
Yeah, I agree with you on sitting him every game.
Not every game, but
once
a series.
What you said, and him just like going to the cages, and I think he should like have one of the pitchers who just doesn't like play in those games and verse him.
Yeah, it's tough. They actually have pitching machines that can simulate. They have, I don't know if you've ever seen them, where it looks like you have the pitcher and the pitcher, it's a digital, but they have the wall where the pitcher is like winding up and throwing.
It's like a projector there, and
then the ball comes out of his hand and comes towards you, and it has the exact movement profile of the pitcher.
That's really cool.
It is really cool. And so they can do that. All right, back. Had to take a little break for grabbing the little man, but got him settled now. And
he was killing me, Smalls.
Yeah, he was killing me, Smalls. So we were talking about the lineup versus right-handed pitching, and something needs to be done to shake it up a little bit. It's been long enough. You're obviously not going to change personnel, but you can do some things to the lineup. As we discussed, moving guys around in the lineup so that you're not putting your worst hitter first. And I don't mean your worst hitter, but your worst performing hitter, because Carroll is the worst performing hitter so far, right? Yep.
I concur.
All right. And so at this point, you just got to do something to put guys into the lineup that gives the team the most efficient method to scoring runs as possible. And with Carroll at the top and Gurriel, though Gurriel has gotten moved to 5 and even 6 for a lot of these games, and that's fine. Like, that's a good spot for him. But yeah, we got to get Carroll back down, preferably in the 9 hole, and then you can work it out from there. So let's talk more positives here. Starting rotation, you've had essentially average performance out of the starting rotation on the whole, as a complete unit. You, considering all the time missed by Eduardo Rodriguez, Merrill Kelly, and even Jordan Montgomery, and even Ryan Nelson, that's not too bad. And Gallen and Monty, since returning to the rotation, have basically looked every bit top of the rotation pitchers we were expecting coming into the season. Kelly surpassed expectations before he was injured. That guy was pitching amazing for us. Part of the reason that we still look average. Fott looks like his August through October from last season is who he is, and not the April through July version that we saw in 2023. And at this point, I'd consider him a solid playoff caliber starter.
What do you mean by caliber starter? Playoff? Caliber starter?
Yeah. So what I mean by that is I would say, like last year, Brandon Fott was not handled like a playoff caliber starter, meaning you're putting him out there with the expectation. You're going to start him in a game with the expectation that he's going to pitch 5 innings, maybe even 6 for you.
Yeah.
And that's not how he was handled last year. But it is, I think at this point, that's how I would treat him, that he is essentially, he's going to be a legit 5+ inning starter in a playoff game. That would be my expectation for him at this point. You wouldn't want him starting any higher than game 3, but he's he's solid. He's very, very solid. And Ryan Nelson, Slade Ciccone, they're perfectly acceptable 4 or 5 starters for the time being. You don't want them in the rotation all season long. If they were, it's only going to be merely an average rotation instead of a good to great rotation. But until we get back Eduardo Rodriguez and Merrill Kelly, this rotation is just not going to be good or great. They're just going to be merely average, even with Gallen and Monty crushing it.
Monty.
And so in regards to Erod, actually, we got an update. He just started a throwing program. And I just want to temper people's expectations out there. A throwing program is not that it's good, it's progress, but a throwing program means he's probably going to be 2 to 3 weeks before he starts a rehab assignment, that's 2 to 3 weeks of just throwing off a mound, throwing long distance, throwing 45 feet. I think they said he threw 30 feet, and then he's got to progress to 45 feet, 60 feet, 90 feet, all on flat ground. Then he's got to progress to throwing off a mound. And yes, that all takes, you're probably going to put a couple of days in between each of those steps. And then he's got to face playing a simulated game or two. And then finally you send him to the minor leagues to start a rehab assignment. And being that he hasn't pitched basically any baseball at all this year in games, he's probably going to need 5-6 starts. I mean, look at Montgomery. And the team said that he was, they're going to be cautious with Rodriguez going forward because of the setback that he had already on this return. And so I just think, I would be shocked if he's back before the 15th of June. I don't think he will be back until July still. And that kind of sucks, but at least he'll be healthy. It's more important that the team has him for the second half than here for a couple of starts. You just don't rush him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure that he's feeling good. And Merrill Kelly, no new news, but, he's probably still going to be, I would be surprised if he's back before August. Again, as long as we can get him for the playoffs, that's really all that matters. As long as he's healthy and pitching well in the playoffs, the rest doesn't really matter. as long as the team can tread water and stay in the playoff hunt. So, bullpen. How would you summarize the bullpen so far this season, Phoenix?
I would summarize it like what a dog would say: rough. Rough.
Very rough. Yeah, it's not been good. We've discussed it before. The biggest glaring issue with this bullpen is that they don't strike guys out. I think they're dead last. I'm almost certain that their bullpen is dead last in baseball for strikeouts per 9 innings. And so
they need
strikeouts.
They need that one guy from the minors. What's it called? Strikes everybody out, but walks the field.
We'll get into that, yeah. So the good news is with Seawold having come back this past week, and Justin Martinez looking like, as I said before, he might already be the best relief pitcher on the team. That gives the Dbacks 5 good relief pitchers, as long as those 5 guys are healthy, they should be pretty. The bullpen will be much improved. You now have Seawold, Thompson, Ginkel, Martinez, Mantiply. 5 guys, all solid, all very solid. Basically, those 5 guys would pitch in any pen in baseball. The guys that are a little more of a concern, your boy Bryce Jarvis on the cold list. He
that ice baby.
While it was probably his worst stretch of ball so far this season, he just, since the first couple of weeks, he hasn't been pitching that great at all. And here's the thing. Bryce Jarvis was a starting pitcher all his career, right?
Yep.
And he was a starting pitcher. He practiced himself in the off season to be a starting pitcher. Like, that's the way he trained, and he built himself up. And that he would make the switch to relief pitcher in the middle of the season is not unusual. But for pitchers who go from starting rotation, mediocre starting pitchers who go from the starting rotation to the bullpen mid-season usually don't have that great of results. Usually you want an off season to train your body to be pitching 1 or 2 innings at a time and figuring out how to maximize your 2 best pitches. So your fastball and your slider, your fastball and your splitter,
yep,
something along those lines, and maximize those. So he prepared as a starting pitcher all off season. It might be best for the future of Bryce Jarvis, just rather than trying to figure out how to be a relief pitcher at the major league level against the best hitters in the world, sending him down to Reno, right?
Yeah.
And giving him a chance to get more acclimated to being a relief pitcher, figuring out what that pitch mix is, what his 2 best pitches are, how to max out his velocity for an inning or 2. Like, just let him do that in an environment where he can practice against competition instead of where he needs to perform against competition, because that's a huge difference. And so that's what I would do at this point. Logan Allen, who was ironically the other player that the other pitcher out of the bullpen you were considering for the cold. He's actually looked good in the long relief role, and it's just when I understand it when Lovullo has wanted to go to Allen to be more of a matchup lefty out of the bullpen instead of a long man. He struggles a little bit. Now, I still think he can do that. I wouldn't necessarily send him down, but he is, as the 8th man out of the bullpen, he's a good fit with what these guys have. Matt Bowman looks kind of terrible. He has like as many strikeouts as walks. I can't remember. He's giving up homers. He just doesn't look good. You could probably waive him and he doesn't get claimed, and you could just put him in AAA for depth. I would definitely call up Dakota Chalmers. I know that's the player you were trying to think of earlier. Yeah, Dakota Chalmers, he's up to 15.1 innings pitched with 27 strikeouts and 15 walks in Reno. Those numbers are shockingly close. Now, I know it doesn't translate this way, but if you take his numbers in AAA, they are shockingly close to what Justin Martinez has for numbers in the majors. They have almost the same strikeout rate, almost the same walk rate, just at different levels. And so does that mean Dakota Chalmers' numbers would translate to the majors like Justin Martinez has? I doubt it. Martinez is an exception. He's so fantastically good. But I do think Dakota Chalmers would be an upgrade over what the D-backs have right now in their bullpen. I definitely think that. And I'm so much so I'm willing to waive the other guys to find out, because I don't expect that they'd be any worse. At least they can, bless you.
So sorry.
At least Chalmers can strike some guys out. I'd also call it Franklin Morales. He's another AAA reliever that they have down in Reno. He's got 16.2 innings pitched, and he also has 27 Ks, but he only has 11 walks. So he doesn't strike out guys at quite the same rate, but he walks guys at a lower rate as well. The problem is neither of those guys is on the 40-man, right? Yep. But they've got two guys that they've acquired on essentially waivers so far this season, and you can send them back through waivers. Just by the nature of being waiver claim guys, it means that they're fringe 40-man players that there's a fair chance if you waived either of them, it wouldn't be inconsequential if you did lose them, but you probably wouldn't even lose them. You'd almost certainly one of them would make it through waivers. I shouldn't say almost certainly, but I would, if I was a betting man, I would bet that one of them makes it through waivers.
You're not a betting man.
And so that's what I would do, is just drop Jaquez, drop Bowman, waive both those guys, call up Morales, call up Chalmers, have them take the place of Bowman and Jarvis in the bullpen, send Jarvis down. He's got options. Let him get acclimated to being a relief pitcher. I actually think Jarvis probably has more relief pitcher upside than Morales or Chalmers does, but Chalmers and Morales have had practice at being a reliever. Jarvis hasn't. He needs to get some give him a month or two to get acclimated, and then call him back up in August to take a spot in the pen for the D-backs. I think that would be kind of my penciled in plan if I was running that squad right now. But yeah, Morales and Chalmers have looked MLB ready in the minors, at least by the stat line. You don't necessarily want to scout the stat line, but I'm scouting the stat line in a way that there's some signal. There's still noise, but there's some signal in there as to what they are, and I think they'd be an upgrade. But now, like we said, we're a quarter of the way through the season. On offense, it's time to make some decisions and adjustments, both to the, you can't, unlike on the offense where you can't really make adjustments to the roster, you can only make decisions on how you use the players that you have in game. On the pitching side, you can legitimately make some adjustments to the roster. You've got flexibility there that you don't have on the offensive side of the ball. And I think it's time for the D-backs to do that. Just pull the plug on the Bowman experiment, pull the plug on the Joe Jaquez experiment. Joe Jaquez is sitting in the minors right now. They signed him. They claimed him off of waivers from the Marlins, who are the worst team in Major League Baseball by record, I believe, at this stage. They claimed a pitcher off of the Marlins that the Marlins decided wasn't even good enough to be on their team anymore. And they're still just like, waive the man. He's looked terrible in Reno. There's no reason to keep him around at all on the 40-man. It's not saying that he shouldn't still be in the organization if he wants to accept assignment, but just let him. Just don't waste that roster spot when you have two good relievers pitching well in Reno that could be up in the majors today and helping the D-backs win games late. So, D-backs got to turn around their offense versus right-handed pitching. and their bullpen. That's kind of the two weaknesses that they have. Bullpen looks like it's starting to stabilize with their 5 guys, but I would still, with the way that, with the lower scoring, I don't know how many people realize this, run scoring is down in the majors this year by quite a bit versus the last 5-10 years, and quite a bit from 5 years ago, a lot from 5 years ago. And so you're having a lot more close games because of it. And that means you need more good relief pitchers to help you win those close games than you did when you were in a higher scoring environment. And so hopefully the D-backs are taking that into consideration, and Hazen and Lovello make the decision to call these guys up from AAA and cut the dead weight on the roster. No offense to Joe and Matt. I'm sure they're fantastic stand-up gentlemen that I would love to sit and have a drink with at the bar, but I don't want them pitching innings for my favorite baseball team when there are guys who look like they'd be better that you can just call up. So that's really it. That's the state of the team at the quarter turn. I mean, all in all, they're in a fine position for the rest of the season, as we'll discuss here. Kind of the new tradition. What you looking forward to, Phoenix? What are you most excited for over the next week of games or so?
Well, I'm very excited for Lourdes to try and turn it around, because
continue turning it around.
Yeah, he's like one of my favorite players, and also I made like 3 predictions on him. So yeah, I want him to turn it around. Color the hair like flames, and
I love that.
He's starting to, but he needs to more put in the work.
He had some awesome catches this past week. By awesome, I don't mean like they were, he's such an adventure to watch out there. It's crazy. He is the worst looking good outfielder I have ever seen at the major league level, because he is a good outfielder. But wow, you would never know it from watching. Like the eye test would just be, what is this guy doing out there? But when you sit down and look at his metrics, you're like, wow, he's actually pretty good. That's impressive. But man, does he look so bad.
Yeah. I want to.
And it's so much fun because of it.
I want to put Lourdes on that hot list for the who's hot, who's not.
Yeah. No, going back to his fielding though, like the best kind of fielder, the most entertaining kind of fielder is the fielder who looks terrible but is good. Because if you have a fielder who looks good but is terrible, it's just frustrating. Yeah. And if you have a because you know that it's frustrating because you know they're getting the most out of their body if they look good, but they're just terrible. But they just don't have the tools to do what's necessary. Where if they look terrible and they are terrible, that's the worst of both worlds, because then you're just kind of a train wreck out there. But when you look terrible, every play is an adventure, but you're making more outs than the average player at your position. And that part's so much fun. He's one of my absolute favorite players to watch play defense. Not for like a, wow, that's impressive, but more in like a, whoa, wow, I can't believe he just made that play. In a way, it's so much fun. I've said that, I think, 3 times this past week. It was so great. I just absolutely love it.
Yeah.
On my end, it's turning around now with the past week, but it was really ugly prior to that Reds sweep that the team had, and there was a lot of gloom and doom talk around the team, and all of everything that I said about the team, about how they got to get the relief pitching, how they got to figure out right-handed pitchers, how they need to be hitting right-handed pitchers better, which that one is a big issue, because that's going to be 70-ish % of their plate appearances are going to come against right-handed pitching. And if they can't hit right-handed pitching, once it comes to the playoffs, you just throw a right-handed pitcher on the mound and you know they're going to struggle to score runs against you. Like, it's just so difficult. And so they got to figure out the hitting right-handed pitching. That's got to be happening. Something's got to happen within the team, but at least you can make decisions around everything else to improve your team. Plus, honestly, they're kind of, with as poorly as they have kind of played so far this season, that they are only a few games under 500 is really impressive, because starting May 24th, the D-backs have a stretch of 34 games where only 9 of those 34 games are against teams that currently have a winning record. And that includes a 20 consecutive games in there where where not one team that they play currently has a record over 500. Like, they are just going to go, they're going to play the Marlins, they're going to play the White Sox, they're going to play the A's.
Yes.
They're going to play the Tigers. Like, they've just got so many. This is where the soft part of their schedule is coming up. They got that 34-game stretch, and that will likely dictate, that literally comes to an end on July 1st, or I should say June 30th, is their last game of that 34-game stretch. And I'm so interested to see where they are at that point. If they can put together a nice winning record over that time, that will probably get them in the playoffs, as long as they can play 500 for the rest of the season. So, they probably have to go something like 20-14, probably even better than that, 22-12 over that 34 games. But I think they can do that over the 34 games. So, yeah, and so that's what I'm looking forward to. Granted, we still got a couple of weeks or a week and change before that even gets underway, but that stretch of games are going to be so fun to watch. It's going to be great appointment viewing. It's awesome. Your football season is over, so we can watch a lot more games together than once they hit that part of their schedule. And so with that, anything else that you want to share there, Phoenix?
No. I'm still excited for a bee celebration. I know it's coming.
It better be. They need something to. They need a slump buster versus right-handed pitching and something.
I think
some
for
team celebration.
I think for a practice they should just do all brainstorming a bee celebration.
Think of it. Yeah, they got time on their hands. I feel like they could figure it out without a whole practice dedicated to it. But I love where your head's
not
at.
a whole practice.
They got to get something going though. I agree. So very cool. Well, if you followed us this long, hope you enjoyed the show. And like, comment, subscribe.
Channel Rihanna Gardner and share, and happy Mother's Day, because we didn't get to say it yesterday.
That's right.
Whenever this comes out, 2 days, two days.
Yeah,
on Sunday.
We didn't get to say it on Sunday. So, happy Mother's Day to all those moms listening. We love you. We appreciate you. And with that,
I had a really big sandwich.
Well, he did. His Mother's Day, his gift to his mom was eating a giant po' boy. And it was impressive. That's the most food this kid has ever eaten in one sitting.
Almost threw up.
Absolutely. Absolutely you did. You looked a little pale for a second. I got photo proof. So with that, let's give a da-da-da-da-da-da.
Nerding.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
On the
da-da-da-da-da-da.
Dbacks.
Woo! Bye.
Guys, look, I upgraded my iPod.